Good morning guys from beautiful Japan. I hope you're all doing fine. Today we're gonna be making another video talking about latitudes and longitudes and the fact that airplanes fly over a flat non-rotating earth and that great circle routes on a ball, although it's true on a sphere in geometry, it's not true on earth because earth is not a ball. First of all, I want to tell some of you who don't know, I'm a teacher of English here in Japan. I'm married to a Japanese woman. We've been married for 24 years. We have 2 kids, and as an English teacher or as a teacher of English, sometimes I do have to explain the meaning of words. So airplane is a compound noun. What's a compound noun? A compound noun is a noun that's made up of 2 or more different words. For example, cake shop, French fries, high flyer, or school teacher. Airplane, air, plane, airplane. So when they invented this machine, they thought, well, it goes through the air, flies over a plane, so let's name it an airplane. So there's a reason why they named this machine an airplane. An airplane flies over a plane. An airplane flies over a flat earth. It does not fly over a ball. This is a very important quote by Greek mathematician. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You see here, point A, point B. The shortest distance between these 2 points is a straight line. Airplanes fly through, they cut through the latitude lines to get from point A to point B, and they fly over a flat surface. Let me explain here a little bit. We have here a racetrack. We have car number 2 in track 2. We have car number 3 in track 3. We have car number 5 in track 5. We have track 6 in track number 6. But car number 4 did something different. He decided to cheat the race, cutting through the great circles. See, these are great circles. So he cut through the inner side towards the center to get to the finish line first than the other cars. So this is the great circle. This car cut through the great circles to get there faster. So remember what the mathematician said, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. This is another view of the same picture. Car number 6, track 6, track number 5, track 5, car number 3, track 3, car number 2, and you see here how car number 4 cut through the great circles to get to this point from point A to point B faster than the other cars. Oh, so he cheated the race. But it doesn't, this term we don't use in aviation. Actually, picture this. Earth has all these parallel lines going around. So airplanes, they have to cut through them to fly from point A through point B, to point B. So let's pick a flight here from Tokyo to Madrid. Let's add an airplane. So I added an airplane here. So there is this flight from Tokyo to Madrid. Remember, point A and point B, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Point A, point B, point A, point B, it doesn't really matter. So Tokyo to Madrid, this plane is cutting through the latitude lines. the latitude lines spread all over the flat Earth, and planes flying over the flat Earth flies from point A to point B. They go through these lines, those are called latitudes, and they cut through them to get from point A to point B. Now in aviation, this is not cheating. Here, it's cheating because it's a competition. They have to go through the circuits, around the circuits, and this guy, he just cut through the other circuits to get from where he was to the finish line. But in aviation, this is not how it goes. They have to do it to save time and money. They cannot afford going around this route. It's much longer and it would make no sense on a flat plane, of course. Now, we did look at this example. I told you about the silver ball, drew 2 points. Now, on a sphere, it's different. We cannot apply this, the shortest distance between 2 points, a straight line. On a sphere, because you have to imagine this as going through the ball, so the line is drawn as a circle, something like this. But you have to understand that it doesn't matter the orientation, it would not change. For example, in here, the shortest distance between point A and B is a great circle on a sphere, not on a plane. So on a sphere, remember, on a plane, this is the right way. It's a straight line. But on a sphere, it's a great circle. Now, it doesn't really matter how we draw this great circle, because on a sphere, there is no sides, there is no up or down. In this picture, you may see a shade because of the light. It doesn't mean this is a down or an up, because on a sphere, there is no up or down. So, just to our illustration, I drew an arrow right here. And you see, if I turn this sphere to the sides, it doesn't really change. For example, number 1 and number 3 is exactly the same, because it doesn't really matter on a sphere whether you draw this line arcing north or arcing south. It doesn't matter. The distance is the same. But you're gonna see, let me show you one. So number 2, I turn this way, number 3 is upside down. Now it's exactly 1 and 3 are the same. And then you have number 4. Number 4 and number 2 are exactly the same, although they are, by the shade here, you can see they are facing different directions. But it doesn't really matter. Okay, the distance is the same. Now we're going to be working more with sphere number 5 and number 6. We're going to be looking at this in more detail. But going back here, since Earth is not a sphere, planes fly straight from point A to point B. So here's another flight. It's another flight here, Rome to Los Angeles. And one more time, they are cutting through the parallel lines because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You're cutting through the parallel lines from point A to point B, from Rome to Los Angeles. And one more time, from New York to Hawaii. We have covered this flight several times, specifically this one. You may note that New York is about 40 degrees north, and it cuts through the 45th parallel 2 times to get to Hawaii, and you can understand why. Because it cuts through this parallel line 2 times when it crosses over. So this is how a plane flies over a plane cutting through the latitude lines. Now we're going to be looking at these in more details, but let's go back here for a few minutes. Remember, as I told you, that it doesn't really matter on a sphere how you draw this line, because it's the same distance. And as we may look here, I just switch aside ball sphere number 1 to number 3. Even though they're upside down, it doesn't really change at all the lines of the great circles. You can either go north, arc north or south, this distance is the same. Now when you name cities here, when you write names of cities, that what doesn't really make sense on a globe. Because on a globe, this arc always has to arc north. For example, here being New York and here being Hawaii. You would never see this arcing south. Never. Even though, if you compare number 1 and number 3, turning the sphere upside down, the distance is the same. This arc that's arcing north here is the same one that was arcing south in number 1. But you're not gonna see this on Earth, because Earth is not a sphere. Those arcs in the so-called northern hemisphere will never arc south, because they are really flying over a flat Earth. So these arcs, let's pick again New York to Hawaii. You cannot arc south, because that would result in a greater distance going from point A to point B. Going back to Archimedes here, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. New York, Hawaii, straight line. New York, Hawaii, straight line. Now on the silver ball, this cannot happen. It can only arc north. Favoring the flat Earth map, you can never arc south. And no other flights, as we have seen. I recommend you guys to watch video number 1 if you haven't watched it yet, where I explain also this topic of latitudes and longitudes and great circle routes. Alright, so let's move to some longer flights. Last week I mentioned some longer flights, for example this one from Singapore to Quito, Ecuador. We have the equator here, and how this flight arcs north. And then I explained that on a sphere it wouldn't matter, as picture number 6 shows. If I switch sides here, it wouldn't matter. It's still be the same distance, but you will not observe this on Earth. They will always arc north like this. And this is one flight, Singapore to Quito. This is another one that I got from Google Map, Quito to Nairobi in Africa, arcing north. And the third one, also from Google Maps, Nairobi to Singapore. So I made a triangulation. All of them show as flying, arcing north. They cannot really arc south. And the reason is, here's the triangulation again. They can always fly cutting through the latitude lines. In this case, the equator. The red circle here means the equator. We have the first flight, Singapore to Quito, Ecuador. This one. It shows here how north it arcs. It cannot really arc south. And because it could never fly a route south of the equator. It could never. It has only got to fly through the latitude line. See how these, they represent like the racing track right here. So you can just picture here being okay, like Singapore and equator and cutting through. So this is exactly what we have here. Airplanes that fly over a plane, and Singapore to Quito he has to fly like this. It shows here as going up north of Hawaii. That's why it has to go through this way. Hawaii is right here. Now the second one I showed, what I told you was a triangulation. Ecuador, Quito to Nairobi. Same thing. Has to cut through the latitude lines to move from point A to point B. As we saw here, Archimedes, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, A and B. A and B. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And this is what, on the globe, it would look something like this. Again, it could never really arc south. And the third one, Nairobi to Singapore. Same concept, the latitude lines right here, cutting through them, arcing, towards the center here, always towards the center. This is the closest point here. Never arcing south, as we can see in this third ball. You could never arc south. You can always have to arc north. This explains why. So latitude lines are these circuits around the face of the Earth, of a flat Earth. Airplanes cut through them to get from point A to point B. This is what they call a great circle. But what they refer when they call it a great circle, they are really saying the great circles of the latitude lines. Those are great circles around the face of the Earth. They cut through them. When they say, oh, this is a great circle route, yes, because you gotta cut through the circles of latitudes over the flat Earth. Globe believers, they love to use this trick here. They imagine a ball, and they use lines. Sometimes they tell me to use strings to prove that the great circles over the top of the ball is shorter than going around, which is okay. I understand on a sphere. But look at this. Once you turn the ball upside down, it's the same concept. So how about those flights over Antarctica? Where are the great circles now? Why don't we see something like this, all these flights going over Antarctica? Because if it's a shorter distance going on the top of the ball, once you turn the ball upside down, it should be the same because the ball has no sides, as we see here. But that's the trick, you know, once you turn the ball upside down, it's the same concept. The distance should be less, but because Earth is not a ball, you cannot really fly over the so-called South Pole. This thing cannot be done. Now, how about those flights from South America to Asia? Do they have to fly over Alaska? For example, I live in Japan. There are many Peruvians here, and they wonder why can't they fly Tokyo, Hawaii to Lima? Why do they have to fly through Canada, sometimes Toronto? See here, once you turn this ball to the side, the concept is the same. Imagine the one point being Quito, the other one being Tokyo, and the flights over the Pacific. Why does it have to fly over Alaska? If Alaska is represented, the yellow line is a longer distance than going straight over the Pacific. Now, how about flights from South America to Europe, in this case to Germany? I did compare flights from Bogota to Frankfurt, and I did show arcing south, and Wolfie didn't like it. He told me you should arc north. Why not? Look here, I turned the ball to the other side now. It's the same concept. The flight over the Atlantic at this time is shorter than going over England to justify that emergency landing in Manchester. Where are the great circles now? Why can't they be applied? And if you remember the famous flight from Bali to Los Angeles, one of the first flights that really called the attention of people, We all thought that the flight should stop in Hawaii for emergency landing since the lady was pregnant and had a baby during the flight. And look here, the ball now oriented exactly like the two cities. And why can't this same principle be applied now? Why can only these great circles on the globe can only arc north on top of the so-called globe Earth? Why can't they be calculated on the side of the ball, or upside down, or east or west or south? Why? Because Earth is not a ball. Those principles cannot be applied. If Earth was truly a sphere, as we have seen, changing the orientation would not change the math or the calculations. But on Earth, it seems not to be the case. Those great circles that they claim can only be applied on the north of the ball, favoring the flat Earth more than anything else. Once you turn the ball to the sides, the same principle should apply not only at the top, as they constantly show you to be the case. Why don't they apply the same principle on flights going from South America to Europe, or flights going from South America to Asia? Why don't they apply to flights going from north to south, or and so forth? Okay, so just to make things clear for you, remember, great circles are those great circles of parallel lines, circuits over the flat Earth, and flights cut through them, and these are what they call great circle routes, but in fact are just shortcuts through the latitude lines. That's what it is. Longer flights like this around the equator. This is the triangulation. You see this in other flights from New York to Tokyo, Tokyo to New York, Tokyo to Madrid, Madrid to Tokyo, Rome to Los Angeles, Los Angeles to Rome, Hawaii to New York, New York to Hawaii. They all cut through the parallel lines, justifying what the mathematician Archimedes said: the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So this is exactly what we see on the flat, non-rotating Earth. Right? Remember this, they call it an airplane for a reason. Airplanes fly over a plane. So this is what we have for latitudes. Let's now move on to longitude lines, and I'll explain how these things work. If you have watched the first video, I have demonstrated how latitude lines are circuits going around the face of the flat Earth, and longitude lines are straight lines from center to the so-called South Pole. And those lines are true. They are the true distance. And this is what I've been telling about flights going from north to south. They fly straight on the flat Earth map. So this is the azimuthal equidistant projection. Also, we know this projection as the flat Earth map. You see below the symbol of the United Nations. And here, there is the definition of this azimuthal equidistance projection map. The azimuthal equidistant projection is an azimuthal map projection. It has the useful properties that all points on the map are at proportionately correct distance from the center point, and that all points on the map are at the correct azimuth or direction from the center point. Distances and directions to all places are true only from the center points of projection. Distances are correct between points along straight lines through the center. All other distances are incorrect. Distortion of areas and shapes increases with distance from the center point. All the longitudinal lines are equal distance from the center point, and that's where the airplanes fly straight. Latitude lines are not equal distance from center point, but the equator is equal distance to the longitudinal lines. So they show you this, the globe spinning ball in space, but they measure this, the flat Earth. Now, I also demonstrated that on a sphere, from point A to point B, a great circle line should be drawn. And this happens in all orientations, but Okay, on Earth, it doesn't really happen going from north to south. And I have picked 12 flights that will demonstrate to you that those flights fly straight when going from north to south. Let's start with this flight here. And I want to start with Australia, the land of Wolfie 6020, because he thinks if I take off from Haneda Airport in Japan, I will land in Adelaide upside down like this. How can this guy think that an airplane, you take off Tokyo Haneda Airport and land in Adelaide, Australia, upside down, like this? It's insane. It's absurd. But that just shows the level of the brainwashing for 500 years that has occurred. People don't think, they don't use their senses anymore. They just repeat what they have been programmed to say. And that goes with all levels of society. So let's start with this first flight here. This is the route on the Great Circle map. You see it goes pretty straight from Tokyo 139 degrees east to Adelaide 138 degrees east. This is the, from east to west, the Great Circle route, but you don't see it happening. You should see on a sphere, it doesn't make sense. This is the same sphere. You see the shade here, I just changed sides and it hasn't changed. You can see here that the rule apply when flying from Singapore to Quito, but it won't apply going from Tokyo to Adelaide because Earth is not a sphere. Tokyo to Adelaide, Australia, it flies straight. Always remember this. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So for this reason, this flight flies like this. And this is looking from another perspective. Flights fly straight along longitudinal lines. There are no great circles on longitudinal lines, proving that the Earth spreads out. It's flat. So this is how the Earth goes. It spreads out from the center point right here. Spreads out, and flights going through the longitudinal lines, they always fly straight. Great circle routes, they are simply shortcuts within latitude lines, always shortcuts on the inner side of the latitude lines towards the center pole. So for flights going from the equator here, Singapore to Quito, if it cuts through the line. So this is what a great circle route is. And all other longitudinal flights, they fly straight. So this is the first one we see here, from Tokyo to Adelaide, Australia. And this is how it goes straight. Let's move on to number 2. I decided to include this flight out of a comment. The lady was telling me she flew from Perth to Shanghai. Here is another flight from Perth to Beijing, 116 east. Perth 115 is pretty straight, going from north to south. Where is the great circle here? It won't happen. It doesn't happen. They no longer apply because when flying over a plane, following the longitudinal lines, they fly straight. Every flight flies straight from point A to point B unless they have to avoid like storms, or sometimes they do avoid regions in conflict like wars, so they have to go around that region. not to be hit by bombs or missiles. Other than that, they will fly straight. So here's the flight Perth to Beijing. Remember, the flat Earth is a clock, and we are following like the clock hand right here. We started with Tokyo to Adelaide, now Beijing to Perth. It's another straight flight, as we see here, over a flat, non-rotating Earth. So we have Beijing right here and Perth flying straight. Let's move on to flight number 3. Flight number 3, Moscow, Nampula, Mozambique. This is in Mozambique, Africa. 37 degrees east, 39 degrees east, pretty straight, going straight from Moscow to Nampula, Nampula to Moscow. Remember the rule on a sphere, going from east to west, it arcs north. It should arc south, but on a sphere works, but on Earth it doesn't work. It always arcs north, because Earth is not a globe. But when flying from north to south, it doesn't really happen, it flies straight. So here it is, the same flight, Moscow to Nampula, Mozambique, going straight, parallel lines, longitudinal lines, flat Earth spreads out in all directions, and this is the same flight from another perspective. Moscow right here, and Nampula in Africa, spreading out on the flat Earth. Let's move on to flight number 4. Flight number 4, Kiev in Ukraine to Durban, South Africa. 30th degree east to 31 degree east. Pretty straight, always looking at the sphere here, how those lines should be drawn when flying from point A to point B. They fly a great circle, but once you turn the ball, it's interesting. Just remember the trick, the charlatan, and the video I played with the when the ball faces up. Here they show the great circle, but once you turn the ball in different directions, it no longer applies, because in Earth is not a globe, it's not a sphere, so they only can show those great route circles flying here north, never go in the other directions. Okay, this is the flights on the flat Earth. Durban, Kiev right here, going straight, spreading out over the flat Earth, and here from another perspective you have Durban and Kiev right here, the flight goes straight. Let's move on to flight number 5. Flight number 5, Warsaw in Poland to Cape Town, 21 east, 18 east, pretty straight this line goes. Always remember this one here, it never applies when you turn the sphere in this orientation right here. So remember number 6 and number 5, and when flying from north to south it doesn't really apply. And this is the flight right here, that's Warsaw, and Cape Town is under this other arrow, which I will explain next. This is how it goes on the flat Earth. Again, Cape Town right here, Warsaw flying straight with a flat, non-rotating Earth. Let's go to flight number 6. Flight number 6 is a very interesting flight. I did search a lot for this airport code right here, latitude and longitude, because it's in Antarctica. Very difficult airport, very difficult to find. Okay, but there is one there, Troll Airfield. The distance 10,000 miles, about 16,000 kilometers. Svalbard, Norway, 78 north, 15 east, to Troll Airfield in Antarctica, 70 south, 11th east. It goes pretty straight. And this is, I got this from this great circle mapper right here. This is on the blue marble, and this is in regular map. straight line from airport. There is an airport code here if you want to check it out, AT17. It was kind of difficult for me to find this one, but I did. So as you see on the globe, it goes a straight line, and all this spherical geometry here doesn't apply anymore because Earth is not a sphere. So this is this flight right here on the flat Earth map. This is this line that I drew in different color here. It's a really long flight, all the way from Svalbard, Sweden to, or Norway, I guess, to Air Base, Queen Maud Land at 11 degrees east, 70 degrees south in Antarctica right here. Very interesting. 10,000 miles, 16,000 kilometers. One straight line over a flat, non-rotating Earth. One straight line. This doesn't apply anymore. This doesn't apply anymore. This doesn't apply anymore. One straight. Because Earth is not a globe. Earth is flat. There's the line right here on a flat Earth that spreads out. Let's move on to flight number 7. Flight number 7, Greenland, Gotthard, Greenland, to Porto Alegre in Brazil. Both are in 51 degrees west. One straight line going from north to south. Again, the geometrical math here doesn't apply anymore. This doesn't apply anymore. Even if you turn the ball to this direction, it doesn't apply anymore. It goes one straight line because Earth is not a sphere, and that is the flight right here, Gotthard, straight down to Porto Alegre, 51 degrees west, longitude line, flat Earth spreading out. The line is right here, Porto Alegre to Svalbard. But this is the flight right here, one straight line spreading out over the flat Earth. Let's move on to flight number 8. Flight number 8, Goose Bay, Canada to Stanley Airport in Falklands. 60 degrees west, Goose Bay, 59 west, Stanley Airport in the Falklands. One straight line from point A to point B. If Earth were a sphere, it should look something like this, because the shortest distance on a sphere is not a straight line, it's a great circle. But because Earth is not a sphere, it's a straight line. So this is the flight on the straight line right here, Falklands, Stanley Airport, Goose Bay, Canada, one straight line over the 59 degrees west longitude line. Go straight, and this is the same flight looking from another perspective. Falklands, Goose Bay, Canada, spreading out on the flat Earth, flying straight. Always remember this principle when I'm changing pictures. I want you to look at this. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, so that's pretty much what they do. Remember our airplane flying straight. You can connect to 2 points. You can name anything here, Tokyo to Adelaide, or that flight from Sweden to Antarctica. It's always the same principle. Always water keeps its level, and airplanes fly over a plane. Let's move on to flight number 9. Flight number 9 is Quebec in Canada to Santiago, Chile in South America. Quebec stands at 71 west longitude line. Santiago at 70 west longitude line. It's one straight line connecting both cities. Remember, always from east to west, lines arc on a sphere. But when you turn from the orientation here, it doesn't apply on Earth anymore, because Earth is not a ball. This is how this looks like, Quebec to Santiago, one straight line. This is how it looks on this orientation right here. Santiago, Chile to Quebec, Canada, one straight line. Okay, remember we're going through the face of the flat earth as a clock. We started right here, Adelaide. We moved to Perth, Nampula, Durban, Troy Airfield, Cape Town, Porto Alegre, Falklands. We're now in Santiago. I got 3 more to go. So let's go to flight number 10. Flight number 10. Anchorage, Alaska to Tahiti. This is an airport in Tahiti. Anchorage at 149 west longitude line. Tahiti 149 west longitude line right here. One straight line flying from north to south. No longer applies this geometrical line right here. Doesn't matter. Remember always the video where the guy was showing the great circle over the top, and once I turn the ball to the side, it no longer applies that. So same thing here. Okay, so once flights going from north to south, they fly straight and following the longitudinal lines. This is this flight over the flat earth map. Anchorage, Alaska to Tahiti, one straight line spreading out over the flat non-rotating earth. This is Tahiti right here to Anchorage, Alaska, one straight line spreading out over the flat earth. That was flight number 10. Let's go to flight number 11. Flight number 11, we have Anadyr, Russia, 177 east longitudinal line to Fiji, landing in 178 east longitudinal line right here, just 1 degree. You see a straight line going from north to south. The geometrical math doesn't apply anymore. It doesn't apply anymore because Earth is not a sphere. This is how this flight looks like on the flat Earth map. Anadyr, Russia to Fiji, one straight line. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and this flight on the flat Earth map looking from a different perspective. Anadyr, Russia to Fiji, one straight line over the flat non-rotating Earth. Let's go to our last flight. I started with Australia, the land of Wolfie, who thinks airplanes from Tokyo to Adelaide lands upside down. So I started with Australia. I'm going to end with Australia. That's how we went around the flat non-rotating Earth. It is. We have here Magadan in Russia, 150 degrees east on longitudinal line to Sydney, Australia, 151 east longitudinal line right here. Pretty straight. No longer this applies, this doesn't apply, this doesn't apply because Earth is not a sphere. This is how this flight looks like on the flat Earth map. Magadan, Russia to Sydney, Australia, one straight line, and this is how it looks like on the flat Earth map. Magadan, Russia to Adelaide. So we did go around the flat Earth, showing how these flights spread out, fly straight over a flat non-rotating Earth. Not too complicated to understand, my friends. The flat Earth is a clock, and flights fly straight, spreading out in all directions over the flat non-rotating Earth. And those are the flights following longitudinal lines, the flight straight, and flights flying within the latitudinal lines, they fly within the inner side, making what they call a great circle. But great circles are the latitudinal lines over the flat Earth. Those are circuits, and when you fly through them, they call great circle routes, but they are truly just shortcuts within the latitudinal lines.
Pregunta controversial. Hay un debate ahora, en YouTube especialmente, en el que las personas se cuestionan que si la curvatura de la Tierra es observable o no es observable.
No, a las alturas que vuelan esos aviones,
Usted
siempre.
no va haciendo ningún ajuste, va como si fuera parejito,
Sí.
sobre terreno
Pero sí
plano.
tiene unos 2 grados más alto que normal, depende de lo que, del peso del avión. Vale.
Ah, ok, la nariz va hacia arriba.
Sí,
Pero no tienen que buscar la curvatura.
No.
Vuela como si fuera sobre un plano.
sí, es lo que trata de hacer el avión.
Bueno, muchas gracias,
Con mucho
capitán.
gusto. Ok,
Que siga bien.
pues,
Hasta luego.
I want to thank you everyone for watching this video. May the Lord keep you safe and bless your families in this difficult time that we're living now. Take care. See you next time. God bless you. Bye bye.